I love Pam's journey in season 3 of The Office. There's no more misunderstood character on the show than Pam. She's often held up in internet circles next to Jim, as many people don't think that Pam is worthy of the affection that Jim shows her, but I think that's based on a misunderstanding of who these characters are and what their journeys represent. The two characters play off each other and bring out the best in each other, but their narratives aren't meant to be seen as relying on each other. They each have their own journey, neither of which is independent of the other one, but rather that each one enhances the other one's journey. Jim's story is a success story about pursuing happiness in relationships and family over and above career ambition. He'll always define happiness within his career, behind his happiness in his relational life. The one example against this being his failed attempt to move to Philly in season 9, which he then retracts. Jim's story is a success story about a man who gets what he truly wants. Pam's story isn't defined in terms of success and failure, but instead on redefinition and pursuit of her goals. In other words, Jim is a static character, where Pam is a dynamic character. Jim stays the same, while the world around him changes. The world around Pam stays the same, while Pam is forced to adapt. Pam's character arc is about a woman who gains the courage to redefine what she wants and go for it. While the show takes multiple plotlines to develop Pam's journey, telling Jim how she feels, going to art school, leaving art school, being a saleswoman, being the office administrator, the focus of this essay will be on Pam's development in season 3, when she gains the courage to pursue her art and tell Jim and the entire office how she truly feels, regardless of how it lands or what effects that might have on the group dynamics. I'm Chet Popelka, and Pam's development in season 3 is my favorite office plotline. When we meet Pam in season 1 and 2, she's a character who's accepted far too little for herself, both in terms of her job, her relationship, and the way her coworkers treat her. She suffers from the effects of low self-esteem, accepting the treatment that she feels she warrants. The person who brings this out of her is Jim, who treats her as a person of high value and encourages her to pursue the things that will make her happy. But as she exists in season 2, Pam is a character whose life has more or less been laid out for her. With her engagement to Roy and her job at Dunder Mifflin, to change either of those is a risk she's not willing to take. Pam is more or less the protagonist of season 3. Every episode except 2 have Pam as at least the C plot, if not the A plot or B plot. The episodes and the action in season 3 is more or less shot from the perspective of Pam. We are provided new information, like Jim's new relationship and his breakup with Karen, from Pam's perspective. Season 3 depicts Pam going through a journey of redefining what she wants out of life, and more importantly, taking the steps to go after what she wants. Like all film theorists do, I saw that this divides pretty neatly into 3 acts. Let's dive in. In Gay Witch Hunt, Pam rejects Jim. While she shares the kiss with Jim and clearly has some degree of feelings, she doesn't have the courage to break off her engagement. But during the course of the summer, after Jim left, Pam does break off her engagement. Likely because of the absence of Jim, she sees how much her relationship with Roy isn't fulfilling to her. Her first major life step happens off-screen, and she's actively searching for some other meaning in life. In the convention, Pam goes on a date. She meets a man and tries out dating someone for the first time in her adult life. The guy is nothing special, and the experience really just seems to remind her about the person who she did have the connection with. In the coup, Pam gets new clothes. Now that her relationship is over, she wants to have more forms of expression that make her feel good. Art is one, but having clothes she likes will make her feel much better. But this is too big of a change for the office she works in. If she's going to express herself freely, it will be without the aid or encouragement of the majority of her coworkers. Pam puts on a funeral for a bird. She's really just continuing the pranks that she would have done with Jim if Jim were there. In the past, she always let Jim take the lead, but Pam handles this endeavor all on her own, and she puts her own personal spin on it, and she clearly enjoyed it. This episode is a microcosm of Pam's overall arc in redefining her purpose to fit her happiness.
Did I wake up this morning thinking I'd be throwing together a bird funeral? You never can tell what your day here is going to turn into.
Pam is happy to adapt and come up with creative solutions to make the office a more enjoyable and emotionally receptive place for her coworkers. The issue is that that's all her coworkers end up seeing her as being good for. Pam keeps track of Michael's productivity during pretzel day. Jim calls at the end of the day, and Jim and Pam start talking like nothing's ever changed. The emotional connection has gone nowhere, and now a lifeline to further connection exists. In Diwali, Pam goes to Diwali and tries to have fun with her office mates, but her attempt to have fun with just them really ends up informing her of how much she misses her time with Jim. She gets the courage or the impulsivity to call Jim while she's at Diwali, hoping that they can capitalize on the call they had the episode before and hopefully restart their friendship. But Jim has gotten drunk with Andy and Karen and apparently doesn't call her back. Pam looks forward to the possibilities beyond Dunder Mifflin. Much like her relationship with Roy, she sees that her options are better than what she's accepted for herself up to this point. She tells Roy that she's taking art classes and tells the camera crew about her excitement for moving on. She's excited for the possibility of a new beginning, free from the work environment that stifled her self-expression. But obviously, that doesn't happen. Pam starts excited that Jim's coming back, but experiences a day of weirdness seeing that Jim isn't the same. The new reality is progressively revealed to Pam, and at the end she finds out the worst-case scenario. Jim is with Karen. The roles are now reversed. Jim has an office relationship, and she has an office crush. She can't have what she wants. The merger concludes the first act of Pam's arc. While she started on the path of redefining herself, it's not as simple as undoing the trauma of her relationship with Roy and dealing with the consequences of rejecting Jim. She has to do that against the whims of her environment, which reminds her at every level that she can't have what she wants. An art career, a relationship with Jim, to be supported, celebrated, or encouraged, Pam is acting alone in her journey to redefine herself. In The Convict, Jim sends Andy to Pam with terrible advice to get with Pam. It's the first episode within the status quo of Jim dating Karen. But in it, we see that the connection between Jim and Pam isn't something that Karen can ever come close to. If they're going to coexist, they can't pretend that connection and intimacy isn't there. Jim and Pam are back in the same office, and it'll be impossible for them not to bond. Pam extends an olive branch to Karen, identifying that the rest of the office hasn't been kind to her. But the main part of her story is that she starts talking to Roy again. Roy's being relatively funny and charming now. The plotline offers Pam an opportunity to backslide into an old comfort, even though she broke it off because she wanted more out of life with Roy. This is effectively the midpoint of the narrative, as it offers Pam an option to pursue her own redefinition of success against the whims of the office, or backslide into dating Roy without any resistance from her environment. Pam helps Jim with a relationship problem with Karen, and advises Jim to have Karen move in close to him. She had the opportunity to probe Jim on how he feels about Karen, as Jim was open about not feeling confident, but instead of doing what she really wanted, she pushes Jim towards Karen. Pam is in the middle stages of investing in herself, and she's starting to backslide into old habits. Karen finds out about Jim and Pam's past, and so for the first time, all parties are aware of the conflict, and the more forces mount against Pam's effort. After Dwight is forced to leave and Jim is stuck with Andy, he has no one to prank him with besides Pam, and the two of them truly exercise their pranking muscles for the first time since season 2. Jim admits to having feelings for Pam to Karen. Pam flirts with Ben Franklin. Pam exercises an emotional connection with someone in a safe way. Karen talks to Pam, and Pam can't really take the heat from Karen asking questions about how she really feels about Jim. Pam has no allies in the office. The forces are mounting against her self-expression, and it's too much for her to take. Pam is forced to go alone to a wedding of which she planned all the details and had them stolen from her by Phyllis. She has to see the wedding that she broke off while feeling as alone as she's ever felt. Pam is at her absolute weakest in this episode. After watching the guy she wants dancing with another woman at the wedding that she planned, she backslides and gets back with Roy, her first major failure in her attempt to redefine her life and values. In the episode Business School, Pam enters an art show. Roy shows mediocre and forced support, while the rest of the office except for Michael fails to show any appreciation for Pam as well. Oscar's boyfriend Gil provides the exact kind of take that misunderstands Pam and her story.
Yeah, on Van Gogh's first try, he drew the hands of the peasants.
Meaning what?
Meaning real art takes courage, okay, and honesty.
Well, those aren't Pam's strong points.
Yeah, exactly. That's why this is motel art.
Pam's life isn't about greatness or even the pursuit of success, but rather about the courage that it takes to undo the abuse that others have done to you and that you've done to yourself. Entering the art show is Pam's success, and it requires a good amount of emotional intelligence to appropriately define success for each person. Pam steps up to Roy and tells him that he has to do boyfriend things. Later, she tells Roy the truth about Jim. This is a story about how progress isn't linear. Nothing good came from dating Roy. It got Jim attacked, it got Roy fired, it hurt Jim and Karen's relationship, and it didn't really teach Pam anything she didn't already know. Roy and Pam go out for coffee, and Roy narrativizes for her and the audience that the only one holding Pam back from what she wants is herself.
So you gonna start dating Albert then? No. No, he has a girlfriend. Oh, yeah. But you broke off our wedding for the guy. No, there were a lot of reasons. He's not gonna try to go out.
Even Roy, the person who was most affected by Jim telling Pam how he felt while she was in a relationship, now thinks that Pam ought to do the same thing to Jim. This effectively ends Act 2. Pam's conflicts with her environment have come head to head. She'll get no support for her art from her environment. She'll certainly get no help in telling Jim how she feels. Pam now wholeheartedly knows what she wants, and she knows that if she's going to get it, she'll have to break the status quo. Pam counsels Michael through relationship problems and advises a breakup. She feels confident enough in the efficacy of breaking off bad relationships that she's able to take on the role of counselor to someone else who finds themselves in a bad relationship. After being told that her desire to do the coal walk was irrelevant, Pam stops caring what Michael or Karen or any of the rest of the office think. Pam walks the coals and tells Jim how she feels. Sort of. She tells Jim and the whole office that they haven't treated her the way that she wishes. She's been doing her best to be brave and say what she wants, and none of them have taken adequate notice. No amount of ridicule from them will undo the feeling of freedom from telling them the truth about how she feels.
I invited all of you. That really sucked. It's like sometimes some of you act like I don't even exist.
Pam puts it all on the line, not with one big speech professing her feelings, but through displays of action and character. This episode isn't about Pam professing her love, or even really giving us any new information, but rather that she has the courage to stick by what she said, even if it's wildly unpopular. She makes sure Jim knows that she likes him, with no strings attached to that feeling. She'll take any degree of relationship that Jim wants to offer. Jim loves her back, but it isn't about Jim. Whether Jim reciprocated the feelings or not, Pam is free now, and she won't be stopped from being herself. And while the rest of the office might not appreciate Pam's honest self, Jim does.
Are you free for dinner tonight?
Yes.
All right. Then it's a date.
Pam's arc isn't properly appreciated because her journey doesn't fit typical narratives of success, esteem, or having it all. While Jim's romantic arc is a story about successfully getting what he wanted in Pam and a family, Pam's story brushes up against the idea of success and greatness, because that's not what Pam wants. Pam's life is a story about living the life you want to live despite the misery that others might look to include you in. Pam's life was surrounded by negativity within her relationships and the way her coworkers walked all over her kindness. Pam starts out in a deep hole in Season 3 because she has accepted the consequences of her decision to reject Jim, to break up with Roy, and to start on the ground level of pursuing her art. Pam's journey begins off-screen when she decides not to accept the circumstances of her environment. But that's the beauty of Pam's character arc. No matter her age or how far into her life decisions she finds herself, she's always willing to stop and redefine what she wants to pursue a life that she'd rather have. I hope you enjoyed this video. I enjoyed making it. If you're interested in more content, feel free to check out my channel and come back for more. Leave your thoughts in the comments on Pam and let me know of any videos or topics that you'd be interested in seeing in the future. I'm Chet Popelka, and The Office is one of my favorite shows.
Pam, that was amazing. But I am still looking for someone with a sales background.